Stacey Powell is a speaker, author, consultant, CFO, and financial coach. Her mission? To change the way people interact with their money so they can lead a more peaceful, confident, and purposeful life. She's a contributor to the MoneyWise Women blog on Forbes.com and is founder and chief creative officer of The Finance Gym in Sacramento, California. There, she inspires others to look at their finances like they do going to the gym. The more you exercise, the healthier you get. She'll even use art as a way to make people's personal relationships with money more visual and meaningful. Natural choice, since she was an artist herself at one point. Stacey has been an auditor at PricewaterhouseCoopers, has grown a not-for-profit from $0.5 to $3 million, and financially coached hundreds of entrepreneurs and businesses. But personally, I just like to call her the Money Whisperer, having experienced Stacey's financial coaching wizardry firsthand, during which time I tripled my income, and as the person who encouraged me to live my life as an artist, which inspired this show. I knew she was a must for the chat, and I'm delighted to present Stacey Powell. Hey folks, it's Karen Hutton and the chat with Karen Hutton. Sound bite-sized insights from some of the coolest people on the planet. This woman, Stacey Powell, is incredibly special to me. Why, you ask? Because Stacey Powell does financial coaching, and you're going to hear in a minute, like, she's doing some amazing stuff right now, but she did some amazing stuff with me. She was my financial coach for what, 3 years?
4 years.
Yeah, 3-4 years. In that time, I tripled my income as a voiceover artist, and interestingly, when I tripled my income and got to this point that I thought I wanted to be, it wasn't really all I wanted it to be. And about that time, Google Plus happened, and then photography re-entered my world, and I wanted to live a different kind of life, and I didn't know how to go about it, and I was freaking out because I thought I'd done the wrong thing somehow. And she literally, I just have to tell you, she's the one who came up with living your life as an artist. And we defined what that was. We had some rules and some boundaries about it. But then she said, what if you take 30 days and live your life as an artist and just see what happens? And I have never stopped. And that's why this show is called Sound Bite-Sized Insights from some of the coolest people on the planet who come up with phrases like living your life as an artist. But that's the vision behind this whole show, is how do you do that? And who is doing that? And are they successful? How are they successful? So you have a real corner on the financial market, and you helped me wrap my head around money in a way that really I had never, ever been able to do before. You just sold your business, Creating Answers.
Yes. But
you kept the other one, the Finance Gym.
Finance Gym.
Okay, so explain a little bit more about that.
About Finance Gym?
About Finance Gym.
Finance Gym is, eventually it's going to save, the entire, well, at least America, if not the entire planet, by getting people to engage with their finances. Right now, what we're doing are financial boot camps, and, we don't talk about money. I talk about money.
Our family never did.
Right.
You don't talk about money.
No one talks about money. And
it's like this dirty little secret.
Yeah. And everyone, everyone struggles. Most everyone struggles. Even people with a ton of money, they struggle, and they don't want to talk about it. And so I thought, well, what if we put people together in groups and had them talk about their money? So we do these mastermind groups, get people on the phone twice a month, and they form a bond and get motivated and speak their truth to each other. They're just small little groups, usually 6 to 8 people. But the incredible thing is they just start talking about, here's what I'm going to work on next. Here's what I'm going to work on next. And then you follow up in a couple of weeks. What did you do?
So what are two things. What are the guidelines for knowing what to work on? And secondly, do you think it works because of the accountability factor? What is that?
Yeah, the accountability is huge, especially for those of us that aren't in a relationship, or in your relationship if you don't talk about money. You're trying to take care of your stuff. We all try to take care of our stuff. And then life gets busy, and we don't.
Life gets busy?
Life gets busy.
What do you mean?
So if you know, oh my gosh, this Friday morning, I'm going to talk to these people that are investing their time in me, and they're going to say, hey, did you open that savings account you said you were going to open? That savings account gets opened. Did you put the money in it? It's simple little things.
So, okay, so if I back up a step, your philosophy about numbers, and because I wrote down numbers, finance, and business. What would you say I mean, is it easy to sort of say your philosophy about that is what? Is it easy to say in a...
In an hour, it's easy to say in an hour. In 15 seconds. I think my philosophy about money is just to engage in it more. Talk about it more, look at it more, write it down more, have fun with it. Draw it.
I think she said have fun with it for about 2 years before I actually started having any fun with it at all. Because what I did, what I think a lot of people do, which is use numbers and my perceived lack of them, in the beginning as a cat o' nine tails to flog myself with.
Exactly. We whip ourselves and oh my God, living paycheck to paycheck again. Out of money this month again. And I had a creative person in one of the very first boot camps we ever did, and she was living paycheck to paycheck, had a good job, 3 kids, single mom, and she thought, well, I don't want to do this number budget thing. She went home and put butcher paper up on her wall, on the dining room, not in her bedroom wall, on the dining room wall so the kids could see it. And when she got her paycheck, she'd draw it. And then as they spent money in the month, they'd draw it so that they could all see at the end of every month, they're out of money. At the end of, and by the time they did that 3 months in a row, everything started changing.
So is that where the art part of it comes in? Because you have a whole art component to the way you work that we didn't do so much in my work, but is a huge part of what you do. Because what you just described is visualizing it and internalizing it in a whole different way.
Because some of us are numbers people.
Yeah.
And
She's a numbers person.
I love numbers. But just think about how many people, they hate numbers, they didn't like math, they just, they don't want to deal with it, and there's so many numbers on the page. When it's not about the detailed numbers. It's just about, I had money and now it's gone. I had money and now it's gone. And what can you do differently about that?
Right.
When you see it that way, for somebody who's visual or kinesthetic, it inspires you differently than just, oh yeah, that number is negative 200.
The thing I found so amazing was the fact that we always worked on the phone. That's the funny thing. She's so good, we worked on the phone for 3 or 4 years. We didn't actually meet face to face until like 2 months ago or something. But we knew so much about each other. It was hilarious. But it still worked in the I didn't have the whole visual and didn't do the chalk fest and the art that you have, the drawings and all that kind of thing. But it had to do with making it a game and just our conversations about, all right, it isn't about making you wrong. It is a game. Numbers don't have any more value than 5 apples. They're just numbers. And simply by demystifying it and what am I trying to say? Taking some of the charge out of it, it sort of freed me up to then start to have fun and go, wow, what can I do? Instead of everything I do fails.
Yeah.
It's really powerful.
And what's the definition of failure? I think the definition of failure is not having fun.
I love that. Yeah. Because it doesn't, Because the truth of the matter is, if you're having fun, chances are you're going to be more successful anyway. Because it just sort of all goes together.
It all goes together, but I think entrepreneurs, and I see this I've worked with a ton of creatives over the years. We just put our heads down and we want to work harder. And then creatives do the same thing because it's just an entrepreneurial thing. You want to be successful, whatever successful is.
Yeah.
And then you end up working so hard, your creativity just vanishes. I think that was the spark for you.
Yeah. No creativity, and then on top of it, then you use the numbers after you're like all beat up. Then you get the numbers out to flog yourself even more. Yeah. And not only that, I'm broke. So it's a whole change. Well, and you know this personally because you do the work you do. You were an accountant, right? And so what's the story about how you got to be from an accountant to this like around money, this beacon of light and hope?
Yeah, well, because I was on the ground. I was just on the ground. I have this really great story that I could tell you about divorce, and I started this business without any reserves, and I opened up my first business 15 years ago, and because I had this background of accounting, worked at Cooper's and Library, and I thought, I know what I'm doing. And all of these little financial problems started cropping up after the divorce, and it just snowballed, and I was too proud and too ashamed to go ask for help. So I kept trying to fix it myself. Yeah, not such a smart idea.
And so you isolated yourself even more.
Yeah. I didn't want to talk about it, and I kept, I every 3 months I'd do massive reports and analyze it, because I'm really good at that. Analyze it, and it still wouldn't get any better. And so I finally just asked for help. I looked in a lot of places. I finally just asked for help and started working with my own financial coach, and everything got better. Everything got better.
So now, knowing what you know now, if someone came to you in a similar situation, an artist or anybody, I guess, what would you tell them? Like, what kind of, do you have, is it the kind of thing where you can say, what 3 pieces of advice would you give them? Can you think of it that way? Can you distill it down that way?
Absolutely. So 2 pieces of the advice are kind of ethereal. One is, I like to call it date night with your money. I remember date night. Date night with your money. Get a bottle of champagne out, or go to a favorite coffee shop. Spend quality time with your numbers. Not flogging time, quality time with your numbers. You have to look at your numbers. You can draw them. They don't have to actually be the number, but you have to spend time with them. Talk to somebody. So if you don't have a spouse that is a supportive spouse to talk to, a mentor, a best friend, a financial coach, just someone, talk to somebody else about them. Someone that's going to be supportive, somebody that you really respect around the way.
That isn't in as much fear as you are, hopefully.
Yeah. And you don't have to hire someone. You can. But you don't have to hire someone. Just find someone you respect. And then the third piece of advice I love is one of my favorite pieces of advice is the 1/3 rule. For people who don't have savings where they want it to be, or they're buried in debt and they just keep trying to attack the debt problem, all of us focus in one area. We either spend too much or we save too much. Not save too much, but that we have a compulsion in one area.
Right.
So the whole 3-legged stool thing is make reducing your debt just as important as saving, and make that just as important as having fun. So 3-legged stool. And if you're doing all 3 of those things equally, your whole self, your financial self, your esteem, everything starts to lift, and your money gets better.
I remember you used to say, you'd say okay, so how many auditions, how much money, and how much fun are you having? And I used to just brace myself, because I'm like, I just didn't make enough money, in the beginning. And then we'd be past that, and you go, well, so now what did you do for fun? I didn't do anything for fun. And then we'd spend the whole time talking about that. Why didn't you? So when that started to come in, the numbers changed. Everything changed. My career changed.
You wouldn't think it would happen that way, but I've seen it. I've seen it hundreds of times, literally hundreds of times at this point, after 15, 16 years of doing this stuff.
So what are you doing now? What's the now project?
The new project?
Yeah.
It's kind of a secret.
What can you tell? What can you tell us?
Kind of a secret. So I'm writing a workbook and a program that we're going to launch nationwide that gets people to interact with their finances in the same way that we do in our boot camps. And at Creating Answers one-on-one, it will get people to join in classes where they're learning to interact and make their money better.
That's fantastic.
And it's very art-based, visual-based. It's not your typical, here's how you invest kind of book. So
yeah, you don't do anything in a typical sort of way. And you're an artist besides, which strangely, working on the phone, I didn't really get that. And I today saw her work, and I'm like, wow.
I don't like to say artist. I wouldn't. I say artist. I can draw pretty well. I can do a good piggy bank.
You do a really good piggy
I do a
bank.
good piggy
You
bank.
make them interact really well, and they're beautiful. They really are. What, out of all this, when you were coming back out of your, dark days, what were the best, 2 or 3 pieces of advice you were given? Do you remember any of them, like?
Definitely the 1/3 rule came from that. During that time, I went, I can't tell you how many books and courses and therapy I went trying to figure out why.
Why, God?
Why am I was a CFO at a company that was growing to 3 million. Why was I so messed up? So, I go to therapy. And my therapist ends up giving me one of the best pieces of advice. And it was about my kid, but it relates to money. That I was kind of beating myself up in my role as a mom, and I was frustrated. And she said, the things that you're upset with about yourself, if you're not conscious of it, you're walking around with those beliefs of yourself. So if you're frustrated when someone calls you a bad mom, and that comes inside you, it's because somewhere in you think you're a bad mom. You go home, write down all those things, and write down what is a good mom. And so, I've used that. It changed everything about my parenting role. So I use that with people with money, and I used it with myself. Like, so when you say, I can't save, because people think they need to have, thousands of dollars in savings. If you don't have any savings, if you don't have a habit of saving, start saving $5 a month, because then you're a saver. Right?
That changes your mindset.
Yeah. It is. It's mindset stuff, and you can't just change your mindset, though, without actually taking an action.
Right.
But it doesn't have to be $100 a month or $500 a month. Put $5 a month in, an envelope that is, I am now a saver.
That's fantastic. What do you think it means to live your life as an artist?
I think we all have a higher purpose for being here. We all have something we want to do. For me, I think living life as an artist is following that dream and that purpose and what we're here engaged to do. What are you thrilled to get out of bed every morning, and go sit at your desk or wherever your work is? I think that's it. It's just being thrilled to get up in the morning.
I think that's very apt. I know that's interesting because the way, as a result of living your life as an artist and actually going and doing it, I've observed since then that people spend hours on their creations and their photograph, their processing, their whatever it is they do, their song, their sculpture, and it's all in an effort to get just the right expression of their feeling and whatever it is, and then they kind of go to their life and go and live until the next time they can go to their art and have this amazing experience. But what you just said is that you can have your life be like that. And I think that was what, more than anything, that 30 days living your life as an artist taught me, and I will forever thank you for that, because it changed everything about my life. So thank you.
It's certainly been fun watching you live your life as an artist.
It's different.
It's an inspiration.
Oh, that's really nice. Thank you. So I want to thank you so much for joining us and sharing some of your sage advice. And thank you, everybody, for being here. We are going to be back next week with another amazing guest, but none quite so special to me as Stacey Powell. So I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.